Cell's alliance with Few has been very beneficial so far, leading them both to new extraordinary heights. But the Continuity Patrol is going to make their final move. Although, it's not just them. Moro Prime is back as well. All these groups are about to converge as we enter the endgame of this story. This is episode 13 of Cell Prime. Few can tell that the time has come. He tells Cell this is what they've been preparing for. Not only will they be battling for their existence here, but Few's going to be battling for knowledge. And Cell's pretty confident that he could win, especially with how he is now. There's no way that he could be stopped. Few hasn't actually fought any of the Continuity Patrol, but he knows pretty much everything about them. He's observed them, and he's fought through alternate versions of them too. All this training that Cell and Few did, the Patrol was completely unaware of because they never ended up destroying continuities. Instead, they simply fought people within them, and maybe killed them too. The continuities and timelines were never split either. They traveled carefully. How many timelines have they truly terrorized? Few's kill count is unknown. He was very subtle about it. The same goes for Cell, but to a lesser extent. They have more data on him. Materializing in front of Cell and Few is a portal, as all of the Continuity Patrol members come through it. Not many words need to be exchanged because everybody knows what's happening here. Although, Cell decides to joke about it. They really needed to bring all these people here just to stop these two? Isn't that a little bit unfair? Of course, the Patrol doesn't care about fairness here. They need to stop Cell and Few. But Cell says it's kind of boring. Plus, he knows most of these people aren't going to be able to do anything to him anyways. Thankfully, they expected this, and they do have a plan for it too. After learning of the way Cell was able to seal entire continuities, Few got really interested in this too, and he decided to do that more himself. Cell never found too much of a use for it, but Few really liked doing that. He holds out a hand, and a bunch of spheres materialize in it. They're very small, and the Patrol can't really tell what's going on here. But carefully he picks some of them out, and then throws them at the Patrol. At least for some of the members. This was all another step in his quest to learn how to control continuities. By sealing them away and using his own powers on them, he basically tries to mold them into the perfect battlegrounds. Of course, there's a limit to what he could do, but he was able to find some really good continuities to store. He saved them specifically for this fight. These weird spheres he's holding, they then absorb some of the Continuity Patrol members, and the spheres go right back to Few. What he just did is seal some of the Patrol members into these continuities. And he selected their fights carefully. He'd love to see the outcome of this. And also, this makes the playing field a lot less chaotic. The only two people left behind are Kenoa and Piccolo. All the members end up in empty continuities, with the only exception of one person being in there. Few basically trapped all these people in there, telling them to wait for an opponent, and when that opponent finally comes around, if they're able to win, Few will give them freedom, and he'll give them anything they want. They have all the motive to kill their opponents here. Cooler ends up in a continuity where he's facing what seems to be himself, at least a metal version of himself. Great, not this again. But it's not the Metal Cooler he's known from before. It's the strongest variant of Metal Cooler that Few has found, Black Metal Cooler. Kakarot 2 ends up in a continuity where he's fighting Cumber, someone who he actually doesn't really know much about, but that power that he's using, it seems really similar to what he and Turles were using before. Actually, it seems to be the exact same thing. He's using Evil Saiyan? Kakarot 2's not too concerned. At his current level, this should be pretty easy. Hit and Granola get a bit unlucky and end up facing a former enemy. It's someone they actually fought before, but they felt like they weren't able to do much against. It's a variant of Lord Slug. Of course, not the exact same one. At first, Granola's a bit concerned, but then Hit remembers what happened. Piccolo overwrote every version of Slug that was involved in this, which means any version of Slug that their version of Slug fused with. So this one is probably a completely different one. He seems to have his orange form, but it's not the same Slug that they know, and he probably doesn't have the same power. He could see what Few's trying to do, putting them up against opponents that were carefully selected, not just in terms of power, but in terms of who they are and what they're doing. If only he was able to get the perfect facsimile of the Slug that they fought, but he's completely overwritten. There's Kakamasu who's still fused, and Cell was actually the one who selected the enemy for him. That same merged Zamasu that he fought before, and the one who was part of the continuity he sealed away. Kakamasu sees the extent of Zamasu's rage and hatred. This is what it might have led him to, and if Kakamasu kept going down that dark path that he had, he could have ended up like this. As for Bardock, his family, and Zeno Bardock, they're sent into an empty continuity. But two other people then show up, Few and Kenoa. He warped both of them into here, and he's going to be the opponent for all of them. That leaves Cell and Piccolo behind. Honestly, Cell expected a few more members because he knows they worked with more people before. Like that one God of Destruction Goku, he even expected him here. Or maybe that Destroyer Vegeta. But Piccolo says unfortunately they have to deal with their universes now because Cell kinda did destroy them. It's gonna take a bit to repair all the damage done. Oh, that's kind of a bummer. He wanted some more people to fight here, but it seems he was a little too destructive a while back. Whatever, they wouldn't have been good opponents for him anyways. Piccolo's the one that he really wants to fight. The two power up to their maximum. It's no friendly sparring match or anything, and there's no need to pace themselves. Here, it's a death match. Cell's goal is to kill Piccolo. And once he does, he's going to revive him on the verge of death, just so Few could study him and get any info out of him. Then after that, they'll kill him for good. This is basically to weaken him to a point where he's not a threat anymore. To a point where Few could extract the data he needs. And Cell's actually curious too. Has Piccolo regained his full power? He really would love to see that in combat. The two clash and Cell is pretty impressed. and Piccolo's a bit surprised too. Cell's growing a lot stronger, but Cell could also see the same within Piccolo. Although he must not have his full strength back, and if not that, Cell overpowers him, because otherwise, Piccolo would have just overwritten him and Few right away. Piccolo's definitely grown physically stronger, even beyond his previous peak, but it seems his abilities don't have the extent of power that they had before, the ability to write reality itself. Let's go over to Few's battle. Kenoa showcases her full power, something that she rarely gets to use because she doesn't really fight on the front lines much, and it's not because she's weak or lazy or anything. No, she has to handle all the logistics and tracking and everything else. That is the whole point of her being the leader of the patrol, and she does have the strength to back it up too. And that's exactly why Few decided to fight her. With her knowledge of continuities and time, he wanted to see what her true power was like, and he gets her to finally unleash it. He was also glad to see that Bardock's family has grown too, including that one other Bardock who used to have the mask on before. He didn't realize it at the time, but him losing was a great thing. It made all of them his longest running experiment. But also, he inadvertently drove all of them into the continuity patrol. He led to the formation of his greatest enemy. They're intertwined with him. Kenoa tries to fight Few first, but he simply dodges by dematerializing himself like Janemba. Of course, they've all seen this before because they actually did get to see Janemba, but they're confused as to why he has this ability. That's what he's been doing this entire time. Just like Cell, he's been learning other techniques, extracting data from all these other fighters and other continuities and such. Just like Cell, he's picked up on these abilities too. It was a bit tougher for him, but he's been able to copy so much, and fighting against a full power Kenoa will be even better. He wants to know what the extent of her power is, and what he could copy from her. But first he has to get rid of the rest of them. Simply holding a hand out, he generates a bunch of weird prisms that seem to trap Kenoa, another ability he's copied from elsewhere. He then launches it across the entire continuity. Sealing her will slow her down, but of course once she breaks free of it, she'll be able to just teleport back here. But he only needs a few seconds. All of the Saiyans he's facing go to their full power. Most of them use Blue Evolution, but two in particular use a new power. Kakarot 1 and the main Bardock, they're able to jump into Ultra Instinct. This really fascinates Few. It's not something he hasn't seen before, but still, seeing them use it, it's interesting. He observes them for a bit, and they're not able to really do any damage to him. He's loving this, but he also realizes that this is a bit disappointing. He thought they'd be stronger. He holds up a single finger, and he flicks it in front of him. A devastating blast that knocks everybody out in one shot, besides Kakarot 1 and Bardock. Left perplexed by that power, Kenoa teleports back in, attacking Few from behind. Quickly he turns around and blocks it, but he actually does take some damage from this. He didn't expect Kenoa to be that strong, but thankfully, he's pretty powerful as well. And this isn't his true full power. Of course, after going through all those continuities, he has picked up on more things too. Not just abilities, but actual power itself. He's figured out how to draw out power beyond Super Few, gaining the power of the Dark King. He completely morphs. His ki, his outfit, his hair, everything changes. It doesn't look much like a transformation, but rather a state of being. He was maintaining his old appearance to make it look like he was just as strong as before, but this is truly what he's like now. No need to use that facade anymore. He does question Kenoa though. What is his true origin? What exists beyond the continuity? Through taking her knowledge and power, he can learn all of that. And he recognizes that the two of them are unique, aren't they? At least in the sense that he hasn't seen any alternate versions of himself, having reached this type of power and position. It's so strange that there's so many other strong versions of other people, but why are they the only two people here that seem to be unique? And Kenoa says he's right. There are other Fews out there and even other Kenoas too, but none on their level. It's the exact reason Few hasn't found any of the other Fews. None have even reached a fraction of his power. Some have been killed or stopped completely. They're rare, but they are out there. Same for the alternate versions of her. This fascinates him even more. He'll steal her full power and obtain the true knowledge that he wants. Back to Piccolo and Cell's fight. Piccolo actually seems to be having a tough time. With all the abilities and power that Cell has gained since their last encounter, he's grown far beyond their imagination. Of course, this is difficult for Cell too, but he's on the winning side. He just simply has more abilities and more raw power. The trickiest thing about Piccolo is the fact that he can use wishes on himself. It seems his wishes can't affect others that are stronger than him, and on top of that, they're not to the extent that he was able to use them before. But nothing limits using it on himself. He can continuously heal himself and refresh his stamina. Plus, he can copy abilities on sight too. The only limit to making wishes on himself is wishing for more power, and Cell's able to figure out these limits. He has a limit on internal wishes and a few limits on external ones. Piccolo will be able to adapt. He won't be able to grow physically stronger through wishes, but he could still just grow physically stronger, and gain all these new abilities. But then, Piccolo suddenly vanishes, and Cell's confused. Is he running away? But no, he can tell what's going on. Piccolo moved to another continuity. For some reason, he went to the one that Few's in. Ah, he sees what's happening. Piccolo's gonna try and join in on the fight so they can defeat Few, and then Kenoa and Piccolo will fight Cell together. Not gonna happen. But as Cell observes that continuity, he sees another strange thing too. There's an extra person there that shouldn't be there, and the power signature. It's familiar. Cell then enters the same continuity. Few has taken some damage, and Kenoa has taken even more damage. Few seems pretty happy because something weird happened. Somebody else joined the continuity that isn't supposed to be there. And then Piccolo joins too. But this other person that's here, having grown so strong that he could just travel through continuities like this and even go into the sealed one that they're in, that really piques Fu's interest. It's Moro Prime. He can see this isn't where he needs to be. He wants to find Cell. Kenoa's just as surprised to see him here. They had a suspicion that he was still alive, but why is he here? Is he working with them? Moro will have to fight them eventually, but he wants to find Cell first. That's his main target, and he doesn't want to deal with these weaklings. And that's exactly why Piccolo came here. Another person joined and is about to third party in that fight. But then, Cell arrives in the same continuity too, staring down Moro Prime. He'll give Moro Prime his fight, but not here. Let Fu do what he needs to do. He holds out a hand in front of Moro and then one in front of Piccolo, dragging both of them away, back to where he and Piccolo were fighting before. Kenoa of course needs to stop this, but she can't escape Fu's seal. The continuity that they're stuck in, it actually has enough power to contain her. Fu just has that level of power. For her and her crew to escape, they'll need to kill Fu entirely. Piccolo also didn't expect Moro Prime to show up, but this could be good because he has an even bigger grudge against Cell Prime. It's going to be a 1v1v1, but still, he doubts they're going to team up against him, and if anything, he could use this to his advantage. This entire time, Moro has been out there as Cell's counterpart, a being in the same realm of power as him and Piccolo. The three of them have grown beyond imagination, three of the strongest beings in any continuity or reality, even beyond Piccolo's previous power, and Slug's too, just without the specific ability to overwrite literally everything, which was frankly beyond his own comprehension at that point. It's why he overwrote himself too in the process. And Moro was aware of this now. He's been doing some digging, and a lot of training too. He will obtain the same ability that Piccolo did eventually. Sure, he could have just gone around to different universes and summoned Super Shenron in them, but the power that Piccolo got was something even beyond that. He did it in such a specific way, and it involved fusing with alternate versions of himself too. It's not simply just wishing for power a bunch of times. Moro will figure out how to do it himself though. He'll become the one to rule all, to create and destroy what he pleases, an immortal being with true enlightenment, limitless magic, and limitless food. The three go back to fighting. In Kenoa's fight against Fu, she lends some of her power to her allies, acting as a support for them. Not only are they fully healed, but they're empowered by some of her strength, jumping back into the battle alongside her, growing from being healed as well. And Fu can see that this is going to start a limitless cycle. She's just going to keep healing them and maybe even herself. But it's not going to work. When empowered by her strength, the Saiyans he's fighting are all very powerful, much stronger than before, but still not even close to his level, even combined. But they serve as great distractions. He needs to fight Kenoa alone. That's how he's going to be able to steal her power. He'll just steal power from them as well. Maybe that's the easiest option. It is her power that they're using after all. The battle between Moro, Piccolo, and Cell rages on. And just like Piccolo thought, Moro and Cell are mostly fighting each other. And Piccolo mostly targets his attacks at Cell, but he does exchange some blows with Moro. But then Moro suddenly stops fighting. Cell has grown a lot. Piccolo has too. They've gained a lot of power, new abilities, all these different things that have made them greater fighters. Moro has as well, of course, but there's still one thing that they don't have that he has. It's his level of magic. Of course, they both have it to a certain extent. Cell has access to it, and Piccolo has even more, especially with the power of wishes that he could use. Right now in this battle, it seems that Cell is stronger than all of them. Cell's number 1, Moro's number 2, and Piccolo's close behind at number 3. Although Piccolo and Moro seem to be really close in power, but Moro is still the strongest in terms of magic usage, with millions more years of experience, as well as basically doing the same method that Cell and Fu did, going to other continuities to fight to grow stronger. If this fight continues going on any longer, he knows that Cell will eventually win. But there is a way that he might be able to win, and also take out Piccolo in the process. It is pretty risky, but he thinks it's worth the risk. And it can give him some even greater power on top of what he already has now. This will fulfill both his motives, defeating Cell Prime, and getting closer to that true power that Piccolo used to have. He warps to Piccolo and single-handedly fights him, absorbing his power, and Piccolo tries to take it back, but he can't. Moro does it so rapidly, and this isn't normal power absorption. He's doing something different. He's trying to forcibly fuse Piccolo into him. Piccolo quickly recognizes this. He then recharges himself and then tries to do the same to Moro. Cell looks on confused because he didn't even think to do this, and it seems kind of lame too. Not really what he wanted. If he's going to be the strongest thing, it's not going to be by forcibly absorbing Piccolo. He'll have to defeat him with his own strength, and not just use Piccolo's strength for himself. That makes the fight way too boring. But Moro doesn't care about all of that. This is a means to an end. Having fun? It's not part of the process. And Moro tells Cell this too. That's where he's been wrong this entire time. He could have grown so much beyond everyone if he just wasn't concerned with having fun. That desire to fight and have a good challenge. It holds him back from his true potential. And Moro doesn't have that same limiter. That's why he's grown as strong as he is right now. But Piccolo starts fighting back, wishing for himself to adapt to this power, gaining Moro's own strength against him. Piccolo also realizes he probably can't kill Moro right here, but he thanks Moro for the idea. He's gonna fight fire with fire. And technically the wish he makes right now is not external targeting, it applies to him. His essence is being absorbed into Moro, so as far as his wishes go, that means they apply to Moro now. He wishes for Moro's power to be absorbed into him, inversing what Moro's doing. all the power, knowledge, magic, everything that's within Moro. It then goes into Piccolo, with Moro being completely overwritten too. Thankfully, Piccolo doesn't feel too much different. Now, if that went the other way around, maybe when he was fused into Moro, he could have possibly tried to beat him and take over as the dominant personality within that fusion. But Moro made one fatal flaw, absorbing Piccolo, allowing Piccolo to use the same type of wishes he had before, at least targeted to Moro. He tells Cell it's been a while since he had fun in a fight like this, and you can see that same thrill that Cell feels in battle. Of course, Piccolo did feel this a while ago, back when he was on Earth, in battles that were way smaller scale. But at his strength, the opponents were either way too weak, or way too strong. Plus, unlike Cell, he has a job to do. He doesn't fight for the thrill of it, but he feels that thrill once more, that same exhilaration he felt so long ago. Against his friends back on Earth, the one where he came from. He'll make it back there soon enough. Once the Continuity Patrol has their work done, he wants to return to his normal life. As normal as he can be with his great power. Cell's a bit terrified, but also excited. That strength that Piccolo showcased, he's done it. He's unlocked the same power that he used to have before. Out of a necessity during battle, that merger, it basically acted as a catalyst for him. And that specific influx of magic and power from Moro, especially within that short amount of time, it helped him break his limits. The true battle begins now, as the rest of the Continuity Patrol continues their own fights. Although, Fu's battle with Kenoa is going much differently. Fu has claimed victory, and he begins to steal her power, as well as all of her allies. Just as Piccolo is growing in battle, Fu is too. But Cell's adapting as well. Now for Phase 2. This is where we'll leave off for now. But what do you guys think about this part, and what's going to happen next time? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to see what you think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel and shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.